On this episode of the Orlando Real Recap, we talk about some pretty epic news. We also talk about some roadway systems that are finally open that will make my life a lot easier, and so much more. Stay tuned. Fresh off ending his bid for president, Ron DeSantis was going around the state and kind of reconnecting with a lot of people, and he was here in Central Florida over the past week in Kissimmee. And while he wasn't specifically talking about this bill, a question was asked to him asking about the social media bill that I brought up last week in our show about how in Florida they would end social media access for anyone that's 16 or under. And he was asked, what does he actually think about the bill, and does he think it's actually going to go forward? And here's what he had to say. I'm sympathetic as a parent to what's going on with our youth, but I also understand that to just say someone's under 15 cannot have it no matter what, even if a parent consents, may create some legal issues. Now, over on Instagram, I can actually show you a bunch of different comments. We had a lot of people for this bill and a lot of people against this bill. We also had a lot of people in the middle where they say, hey, I don't want my kids on social media, but I don't want the government stepping in to say if I can or can't do it. So DeSantis goes on to say that this is going to have some more finesse on it before it would make it through both House and Senate and make it all the way up to his desk to sign. So let us know down below, because we didn't do a poll here on YouTube. Would you be for or against this social media ban? Or do you think that just because you don't want your kids on social media doesn't mean the government needs to get involved? I want to know what you think. This week's episode of the Orlando Real Recap is brought to you, like every week, by the Posick Real Estate Group, my real estate team. Go check us out over on Google. We've got over 765 five-star reviews. We're here to help when you're looking to buy, sell, invest, whenever the time might come. Reach out, theorlandoreal.com/real. It wouldn't be a news week in Orlando without some sort of theme park news, and there's some pretty epic stuff to talk about. So with that, let's throw it over to Chase Farmer, our in-house theme park expert. Chase, what you got?
Universal Orlando just announced a ton of news on Epic Universe, so let's break it down. If you didn't know already, Epic Universe is Universal Orlando's fourth gate. So they have Universal Studios, Islands of Adventure, Volcano Bay, and now Epic Universe. The current plan is to open in 2025, and they just announced they plan to have over 50 experiences between attractions, dining, entertainment, and shopping at the new park. The majority of the announcements today all come around Celestial Park. This is the main area you're going to see whenever you walk through this beautiful gate. It's this 7-acre sprawling area with greenery, a lot of gardens, fountains, waterways, all that jazz. And it's going to have theming around astrological and mythological things. In general, the vibe to me is giving like I'm in Mount Olympus, but like I'm also in like this dreamy star-like world. It's like almost old meets new. It looks very modern, but it also is like very fantastical, like over the top. There's going to be two main attractions in the central area, in the Celestial Park area. The first of which is Starfall Racers. You'll hop aboard a comet and rocket through the skies, racing to see who's fastest. This is a dueling coaster with speeds of up to 62 miles an hour, a max height of 133 feet, and 5,000 feet of track. So a good substantial dueling coaster, lots of thrills. Very excited for that one. We also have the centerpiece of Celestial Park, which is Constellation Carousel. It's not what you think of whenever you think of like a little kid carousel. They said that it's going to go forwards, it's going to go backwards, it's going to spin, and it will dance to the music and lights around the area. They also announced an area called Astronomica, which is like an interactive wet play area for kids. They also announced that throughout the day and the night, they're going to have these massive fountains all up and down that 7-acre area that will dance to music, different light shows, all that jazz. There's a ton of dining options, a few sit down, a few quick service. They announced Atlantic, which is a full service surf and turf restaurant with an aquarium and views of Celestial Park. This sounds really cool. The Blue Dragon Pan Asian restaurant, which takes you through a journey of different flavors, including Chinese, Japanese, and Thai. The Oak Star Tavern, which is a barbecue restaurant, and Pizza Moon, which is a pizza, and I'm assuming some other like Italian dishes. They also showed off a new Nintendo store, which looked cool, and a sweets shop that looked pretty sweet. No pun intended. Along with all of that, we finally got to see the portals into each area. To me, this is kind of what sets Epic Universe apart from other parks in the area, right? You go to Islands of Adventure and you walk through all of the lands and they kind of like meld together. Magic Kingdom, it's the same way, right? You're just kind of walking through different lands. But at Epic Universe, everything is behind a portal. That is your gateway into each area. So it's very separated. So each of the 4 portals has its own kind of monolith that lets you know what is behind this gate. And the 4 worlds are finally fully announced with names. You have Super Nintendo World, How to Train Your Dragon Isle of Berk, Dark Universe, which I'm most excited for, and the Wizarding World of Harry Potter Ministry of Magic. Very excited to see how they do all of this. I love how all of the portals have their own look, but they stay with the same theming. It's very exciting. And we can't forget the giant hotel at the back of Celestial Park, the Universal Helios Grand Hotel. It's going to have 500 rooms, and it's just beautiful. Another cool thing about the hotel is you'll have special access to the park from back there. They're probably going to have like early park hours or whatever it is, but you'll be able to enter from the hotel directly from the back of the park. And I think that wraps it up for all of the Epic Universe news.
Last week I did a segment around nursing jobs in Florida having a massive shortage over the next 10 years. And I started looking through some of the comment section of people talking about, well, nurses don't pay enough. And so I started going through actually a lot of different articles and job postings on what places are actually hiring well-paying jobs beyond sort of the hospitality and theme park stuff that Orlando is known for. And Orlando Business Journal had a remarkable article around $288 million invested into the Orlando market by Central Florida engineering firms. Some of the biggest firms that are currently hiring right now are Kimley Horn, AECom, HNTB Corp, DRMP Inc., and DBPH. Looking at the type of jobs that are in these engineering firms, they're really more civil engineering and site surveys. There's a lot of development going on in Central Florida. So when you think about all the jobs that are actually being created, when you see a new development go in or you see a new building go up, the reason I get excited is not just because there's going to be a new skyscraper or more homes to sell, but ultimately there's going to be a lot of jobs that get backfilled in that entire process. We were up in Apopka last week and we saw the new Wild Oaks development. It's a $3 billion development that's going to go in there. It's going to have retail and office and commercial. And yes, it's going to completely change the landscape of the Kelly Park 429 interchange, but it's also going to create thousands of jobs over the next decade or so while this thing's getting completed. So let me know down below, does this sort of change your perception on the jobs that are available here in Orlando? Getting around Central Florida is going to get a lot easier. Over the past week, we had the 25-mile extension to the Wekiva Parkway, the 429, which finally extends 429 to I-4 and 417, creating a beltway system that Walt Disney himself said that we needed here in Orlando back in the 60s. Now, you look at other cities around the country that already have this: Atlanta, Washington, D.C., Kansas City, Jacksonville, Philadelphia, all these other major cities that have the growth that we are looking for here in Orlando, or at least the accessibility and ease of Orlando. This road system finally offers what a lot of those other cities already have. Now, when I first moved here 8 years ago, I remember I would explain to people kind of Orlando has this sort of V system. You've got off to the east, you had the 417, off to the west, you had the beginnings of 429, and then I-4 up the middle. And unfortunately, if you were in South Orlando, you had to take I-4 to get sort of from between Celebration up to Lake Mary and the Heathrow area. That ride used to take me about an hour. They added the toll road up the middle of I-4, and that made it a little bit easier. But this new beltway system will offer a lot of different things. I can get kind of from Horizon West up to Heathrow in about 35 minutes, according to Google Maps as of today. And I start looking at all of the different expansion opportunities that this also creates, because affordability is a massive issue everywhere in the country, but really in Central Florida. And commute time plays a lot of that when you think about different expansion areas that could be developed into more housing or to more areas for people to live, work, and play. I'm excited about it. The state purchased over 3,400 acres to protect wildlife and to make sure that they had a lot of different kickouts, bat caves, and a bunch of other things that would protect our wildlife and our waterways here. And I think that the way that they did this by making bridges that extended out without having pylons in the water, it's actually just a fascinating process that took over a decade to complete. So let me know, is this going to change your commute? And even though it's a toll road, do you plan on using it? That's this week's episode of the Orlando Real Recap. Lots of exciting things going on, theme parks, roads, and that sort of thing. If you're out and about and you see something that is interesting, feel free to drop us a tip over at theorlandoreal.com/news, and your story might end up in our future video. Hit the subscribe button before you leave, and we'll see you guys on the next video.